the one thing that communist regimes fear the most is the truth. And if we're able to help Cubans communicate with one another, also communicate to the outside world, that truth is going to matter. That truth, I think, will be decisive. And so, Mr. President, now's the time to stand up and be counted. I've never seen a community more unified than what we've seen here over the last nearly a week. So this is a time for choosing. This is a time to stand with the people who are seeking freedom from a brutal 62-year reign of communist oppression.
Brendan Carr is one of the 5 FCC commissioners, but there's only 4 right now. Biden hasn't yet nominated his 5th. So it's at a 2-2 deadlock between Republicans and conservatives, which is good news. Mr. Carr, how are you, sir?
Great to join you. Thanks.
I'm grateful you're here. So first, how do we know that Cuba's shut off their internet? What does that even mean? Do they control their internet? Does China control their internet? What's going on there?
Yeah, increasingly around the world, the very first thing that happens when people take to the streets to protest a brutal dictatorial regime is that regime moves to shut down the internet. We've seen it in Iran. We've seen it in Myanmar. We're seeing it right now in Cuba. And in Cuba, they haven't shut down the internet entirely. What they're doing is they're blocking messaging apps like WhatsApp that people are using to get images and videos out. Because when people see what is going on inside of this regime, it really coalesces international support in favor of the people that are fighting for their own freedom. I was with Governor DeSantis at that press conference that you just showed, and he's exactly right. We need to have a strategic capability in the U.S. as a general matter, but also specifically right now for Cuba. We have the technical capacity to help bolster their internet service. It's a question of, do we have the political will in the Biden administration to help these people right now?
All right, I want to get to us, but one last thing on them. What's their technology? What's their technological capability of blocking these apps, and who controls that?
Well, when you have the existing internet services on the island, the Cuba regime obviously is in control of that and can block access to certain websites or certain applications. The Chinese government, their technology obviously is pretty well infiltrated and coordinated with the Cuba regime. So that is how they control services on the island. That's why we need to bring in internet services from off island to give people a direct pathway to the internet that circumvents the network connections on the island altogether. That's path one. Path two, we also have technologies. One is called Siphon, that the U.S. backs with funding so that people can circumvent the blocking that's taking place on the internet connections that are on the island. So both paths, introducing new connections to the island and also helping the people circumvent the blocking technologies with respect to the networks that are on the island right now.
Okay, interesting. All right, one last question about the island. I will get to those. Let's say I'm in Cuba, right? And I have my WhatsApp. Do they block me from sending a WhatsApp message to someone else in Cuba? Could they block me from sending it to someone in Miami? And can they block someone from Miami sending a message into Cuba?
Yeah, our understanding is it's a complete block, basically, of WhatsApp when they do that. So you can't send it within Cuba. You can't send it internationally. Okay. It's a complete blocking of access to that application.
Okay, interesting. All right, so again, what's our how could we, if we wanted to, we'll talk about will in a second. If we wanted to, what could we do to increase their internet ability?
There's several technological options. One that I've highlighted is these stratospheric balloons. This is a technology that we know works. Wow. In Puerto Rico, after a hurricane in 2017, at the FCC, we authorized these stratospheric balloons to go up. They can stay in the air, offshore, in international airspace. They don't require new infrastructure on the ground like you might with a satellite service. You can beam directly from these high-altitude balloons right to a smartphone over a Wi-Fi service, possibly even over traditional cellular service. It worked in Puerto Rico. I've been to Kenya myself and seen this technology work there, where commercial providers were using it to bolster connectivity in the remote parts of Kenya. And we saw it happen in Peru after some natural disasters there. I've been to South Dakota, where this company is based, and I've been to their manufacturing facility. So we know this technology exists. There's probably other technologies that I'm not even aware of that other three-letter agencies may be able to use, but we know there is a technological capability to do this, which is why I really think this centers back on a question of political will.
Could they block that balloon's access or any other means we have? Do they have that ability, or would we control that completely?
They would certainly try. So right now, we have a U.S. government agency called Radio Marti, and they broadcast radio content into the island. And Cuba tries to block those radio signals. Will they try to block these, connections coming in from the balloons? I would imagine they would try, but it would not allow them to get 100% blockage, in my view, for a few reasons. One, we don't need to blanket the island with 100% coverage for 100% of the people all the time. This isn't a substitute for, commercial internet connectivity. What we need to do is allow connections that will give people another option for getting a burst of connection to get the videos out, get the pictures out. So even if they block, say, in downtown Havana fairly well, A, they're probably blocking their own communications at that point, but B, you can move out, you can store the video on your phone, and as soon as you get a connection, you can upload it in and out. So again, this is more of an emergency connectivity, not something that you would drop your Verizon or AT&T 4G service to get.
Sure. Well, that's very interesting. Would Cuba view that as an act of war, / where is the political will to do that? Because that's such an obvious no-brainer thing that we need to do yesterday.
So right now, as we broadcast these radio waves into Cuba, Cuba takes the position that it's a violation of Cuba law. There's some international organizations that take the position that it's a violation of international law. Yet for decades, the U.S. government has done that. So we're not breaking new ground in that respect. Also, near the end of the Obama administration, the same organization, Radio Marti, inserted satellite-based internet devices into Cuba to help give people, again, another route to an unfiltered access to the internet in the outside world. At the end of the Obama administration, according to some reporting, they shut down that effort as they were trying to reestablish diplomatic relations with Cuba because Cuba didn't like it. So will they take the position that it's illegal? Yes. But we've been doing this same type of activity for decades in the face of their position.
So where's the will? And similarly, we played Mayorkas when he was nominated for Homeland Security. He talked about how he, just like U.S. did for his family, he wants to help people fleeing oppression. And then that was 8 months ago. And then last week, he's saying, do not come to America from Cuba. We will not let you in. Why is there no will?
The political question is the key one. When we saw this type of activity going on, Republicans were the first sort of uniformly to speak up in favor of helping the people of Cuba. Senator Rubio spoke in terms of this internet to Cuba technology. I did that press conference with Governor DeSantis where he raised it. But in the days after that, President Biden had a press conference where he said that they are looking into ways to restore internet connectivity into Cuba. And I hope that those discussions are taking place. I personally have not been involved in them, but I would encourage that to take place. Senator Menendez on the Democrat side also voiced support for this. So I do hope that the political will is there, but it's not clear to me that we're going to take advantage. There's a moment in history right now. We can't wait a week. There's going to be some logistical challenges to standing this up, but we need the full weight of the federal government behind it. That'll clear a lot of those logistical hurdles, provide the funding that's necessary to do that. And we got to get going. I don't want to navel gaze for another week, but if I had to bet, I'd say that's where this lands.
Wow. That was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like, subscribe, get more.